played against both of these players.
Yeah.
You know, how would you actually classify Dodoro's style in PvZ after you've seen the first game? I mean, is this the standard style that we're used to seeing, or is this something a little bit wanky?
You know what? I mean, he's actually kind of known to be a big-time cheeser. He actually made like an entire MLG run where he either proxy-gated or four-gated. Like that was what he did in all 3 matchups. And people laugh, but he actually made it to the championship bracket. He did quite well. I mean, that's just what he does. He's very dangerous that way. So to see this last game where he's playing smart, intelligent mind games, he's playing a standard, completely straight-up game, and he's just executing really well, it's refreshing. It's nice because it shows that he's capable of everything above, which means when you sit down to play a best-of-3 with him, you got to take it into account. You're very scared. Ostojiy, on the other hand, is a big-time ladder player. You'll always play him. I've played him numerous times. He snipes his probe. It's actually kind of a big deal because you want to have that probe out there to deny the hatchery, but as it is, it's probably going to be hatched first.
Because now Ostojiy could potentially 15 hatch from here.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what he's going to do. Ostojiy is funny. He's got growing up to do. He's been invited to some pretty big events like a Red Bull, and he's made deep runs in MLGs. He's definitely one of the young North American players that people will be talking about for a while because I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. But he also suffers from nerves, like you said. That's for sure. I think he'd admit that too. And he also, I mean, it's no surprise Idra's a bit of his icon because he gives out a lot of excuses. He kind of bad manners. He's got a not nearly to the same extent, but he's a funny guy. I mean, every time I've ever beat him, I can't tell you I haven't gotten a lecture on what like situation he's got in his house or his room or pizza just came to the door. I get some funny stuff.
Oh yes. Actually, I beat him PvZ one time when I off-raced on Protoss. And the first thing he goes, he's like, the lighting in here is bad. I'm just like, are you kidding me? He's like, I'm like, Osto, I'm going to kill you, man. Because I am his coach, actually, for his GoSu. He's like, dude, I can't play under these conditions. I'm like, all right, dude.
He's a funny guy.
I'll give it to you.
He was on Thorzane's account when they were both at the Red Bull LAN, I believe. And I thought I was playing Thorzane Zerg. So I just did a whole bunch of funny stuff. I went carriers off a 2-base, and I'm like just doing weird things. Eventually, I'm securing an advantage and winning the game, like 5 or 6 bases to his 2 now because they're all dead. And he types in, "You're lucky that the pizza just got here. I was going to win this game." He left. He's obviously joking, but he's no GG. Just kind of leaves. Like, all right, Ostojiy, you funny guy. I later found out it was Ostojiy.
Anyway, Dodoro is opening up pretty standard here, just the regular 2 gases. I like the Osto's Overlord positioning. I think this is probably the optimal places. One to just check on the forge, and then the other one to check on like this area. If there's a robotics facility over here, normally robos actually get planted at the natural, but also to check chrono boost and you know, be accessible to the main.
Gas timing is a really big deal too. I mean, if there's no 3rd or 4th gas to that natural, it can either mean like a Stargate opening that eventually does have the gases being taken, obviously, but it's after a couple of warp-ins, or it's literally a 2-base timing. Sometimes we see that 1 gas, 8 gate. Sometimes we see a 2 gas, 6 gate. All the above is possible. As it is, Dodoro is, again, capable of doing both those things now. Yeah,
and, you know, it's a luxury to actually know what your opponent is doing.
Right.
It's standard to actually know what your opponent cannot do. That's why you normally try to just do a process of elimination with the Overlord scouting or even the Zergling scouts.
It's a really good way of putting it, man. I'm going to have to steal the crap out of that.
Ooh.
It'll be like my yearbook quote, Retorp 2012.
Thank you.
Not a whole lot to say about the Zerg player. I mean, this has kind of become the cliche of casters, but I'm sorry. Zergs have normalized their play. They want to go gasless. They like the 3 hatches. Gas timings are what's kind of discussed, but as long as it's between 42 and 50 supply, it's completely standard. Variation from here is like where the macro hatch goes down, when it goes down, and how fast do they take their 4th, 5th, and 6th gases, because that'll indicate do they want to go faster in festers, sometimes mutas, so on and so forth. If they stay on about 3 or 4 gases, that will be the Roach Stefano style, which is very common on this map.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like Osto is putting up his 3rd evolution.
That's a super fast flight council, by the way.
Yes, it is. Now, is this just for +2, or is this for some sort of, well, blink timing?
That answers that. I mean, that's really fast, though. I think this will be maybe 4 to 6 gateways. I don't think this will be the 7 gateway style. Because, again, Blink Stalkers, well, not necessarily again, but I guess the point I'm trying to make here is there's a lot of Protoss that are experimenting with Blink timings as a way of defending against the Roach opening to take that faster 3rd. And the reason they're doing this is because so many Protoss are hard countering the Roach openings with Immortal Sentry styles. A lot of Zergs are cycling back to Infestor openings or Mutalisk openings. And if you don't have Blink and if you're not, Twilight Council tech, then you're in a lot of trouble, actually. Well, I was wrong, though. This will be the 7 gate.
Oh, interesting. It's kind of interesting also, this 4th gas not only hasn't been taken, but it's actually not being mined right now. But it was mined, or excuse me, it was made really, really late relative to normal, I think, Blink Stalker timings. Oh, unfortunately losing the first Stalker over here. And that will hamper Dodoro's plans just slightly.
I'll tell you what, this is super fast. Like, this would be fast for a gateway timing, but the fact that he's going to have Blink and possibly +2 by the time this really picks up speed is going to be brutal. Absolutely brutal. He's got a good pylon placement. He's dropping 2 more in a key location. This is right outside the 3rd for the Zerg. And if you look at the Harvester count, 59 drones, it's about where you want to be. So from this point forward, it's pretty straightforward for Ostojiy. He's just going to make roaches. The question's going to be, do the builds line up nicely, and how good a micro does Dodoro have? Yeah,
number one thing, I think, is he has to wait for that Glider Constitution. 110 seconds. If he can weather the storm here efficiently, I think he will be able to hold this off. Glider Constitution allows him to just close up onto all of his opponent's units a lot more efficiently. But if he doesn't, then obviously he will just die straight out right here.
Blink doing so much damage right now. A lot of those Stalkers getting Blink back beautifully. He did lose 1 or 2 unnecessarily, but again, we're all human. So now look at this. He's putting on a display, moving backwards. Zerglings are doing what they can to tank damage. The amount of Stalkers here is not really high, and a lot are going down because they are fighting on creep. And actually, for all the compliments I paid to this Blink Stalker micro, it's kind of fallen by the wayside as we do see that this army is not nearly where it's supposed to be. Already the supply for the Zerg is twice that of the Protoss.
Yeah, this isn't good. Dodoro looks to be just not retaining as much. I think having that constant fight there isn't the way you actually want to do it. Wait for the second round of units and then have that extra DPS in there. But he just wants to kind of brute force it right there. And Blink Stalkers are not brute force, they're finesse.
Yeah, they absolutely are. Their margin for error is very, very low because, I mean, obviously Blink's just a fantastic upgrade, but if you make it a part of your timing, you've sacrificed a certain chunk of your economy / the timing of your push for that upgrade. If you're not utilizing that, of course, it's going to pay off against you.
And look at this. Glider Reconstitution does finish. The 110 seconds is up. And now, look at this. He can almost flank the army, but he has to pass. The reason why that roach speed is so important is because it allows him to catch up to those Stalkers. Normally, if they don't have it, Stalkers can basically just kite all day long, but this is just too much right now.
Yeah, I mean, every time he blinks back, those Stalkers are on their last legs, so they can't take any punishment at all. And even on the cooldown, with how fast these roaches are off creep with that upgrade, and even on, well, more so on creep, they actually just run past the full health Stalkers and start picking off those weaklings. And as we see, Dodoro's been routed. He's running back home. He's got no plan behind this. His 3rd is being blocked by an Overlord dumping creep. His tech has stagnated. I don't even think he has a robo. And now with Burrow upgraded, Ostogiy's got to love his positioning. Because the only problem, the only fear he would ever have is a super high Stalker count, and we don't see that. And even now with Sentries coming out, it's not possible.
Yeah. And as soon as he sees the Sentries, he's actually so happy to see that because he knows his opponent is in a position where he can't even rely on Blink Stalkers to keep him safe. So that's just adding it to it. GG gets called out, and Ostojiy will take game number 2, putting the score up to 1-1.
And I feel like that's more of an expected result. Again, not to discredit Dodoro. It's an amazing run, but I've never been too impressed with his PvZ, and Ostojiy is an extremely deadly Zerg, but also I think the clinic that Scarlet just put on makes it look like a lot of these Protoss, if they're not playing top world-class style PvZ, they just don't belong in the same game as Scarlet. And Ostojiy is not at that level for Scarlet, but he's at a level enough where builds are really important to Dodoro. If you're going to do a time against Ostojiy, you need to have sold him misinformation like that robotics bay, or you need to deny information, and neither of those were the case here.
Yeah, definitely. And at this point, I mean, he kind of got to the point where I think he doesn't have that big of a repertoire, in my opinion, to really sell it to them. I mean, keep in mind, Ostojiy is a ladder hero. He's on there 24/7. Dodoro and him meet up all the time.
Yeah.
And when that happens, I mean, you have so much information that you can basically choose, or you can basically see exactly what his opponent is doing. That's why I think the first game was just so off that he wasn't able to keep up. Maybe if he can pull off something like that, he'll be in a good position, but Dodoro definitely needs to be clever with this. Cloud Kingdom is going to be our third and final map, by the way.
Interesting. Entomb Valley is in the map pool. I'm not sure if they had. Do you know if they have a veto?
I'm not sure, honestly.
Interesting. Because I do know that the Entombed is in there and he didn't pick it. Okay.
And just going to get Dodoro. Yeah, Entombed is probably like the best PvZ map, I would say, just because you can section off and take your third a lot easier than all other maps.
Yeah. Ostogiy's weirded out by it as well.
Yeah, he goes, no, Entombed? Okay, go.
But you know what? If I'm playing a Dodoro and I'm Ostojiy, I'm a little bit weirded out by that. It's like, what are you thinking? Because there's a really good cannon rush on this map, so if you proxy, or not proxy, but if you pylon block the natural, force a third at the third, or force a natural at the third, excuse me, and then you cannon rush that can be dangerous stuff. I don't know.
Well, even, are you talking about the one cannon rush thing here?
Yeah.
Even that gets beat, though, these days to the 5-range queen.
Oh, yeah.
It
I just
stacks
use
on
it to
top.
get the second cannon on the other side.